Imagine that you were a big corporate employer. Let's also suppose you had an important job to fill in your company. It's the top job. The new hire is going to be president and CEO of the company. Okay, so you're not just an employer, you're more like the board of directors. And it's a huge board. It's so vast, and the field of applicants so numerous, that you hire two rival search firms to winnow the job applicants. You tell the search committees to narrow their selection to one finalist each. The two search firms don't get along. That's understandable, since only the one that produces the winning candidate gets paid. So the rivalry is intense. Sometimes they cheat a bit, and they always badmouth the other search firm's candidate. So the process takes the better part of 2 years. Finally, each search firm identifies its entrant. This was spring and summer of 2016. And as you remember, my fellow board members, we were taken aback at the finalists. But what could we do? It was too late in the game to restart the process. The CEO job was coming open, and we were obliged by our company's founding documents to fill it. One of them, you recall, was a woman. Most of us liked that idea. Our company had never had a female CEO, even if more than half of us disliked this particular woman. The reasons varied, which happens with such a huge board of directors. She was a familiar face though, with a strong resume. This woman, let's call her HRC, so as to not jeopardize her chances at future employment, had previously applied for the same job when it was vacant 8 years earlier. That's not always a deal-breaker. We chose a second-time applicant to head the company back in 1968. The man we chose in 1980 sought the job 3 times before we gave it to him, and he worked out well. Anyway, the search firm that recommended HRC in 2016 had bypassed her as a finalist in 2008. It was a close call for them. Apparently, some selection committee members felt there was a nepotism issue. Her husband had previously served as company CEO. Others found her personality grating. Some were worried there were skeletons in her closet involving family finances. Many were just enamored of her main rival, an attractive African-American guy who was short on experience but long on charm. He made mistakes in the top job, as they all do, and he struck some of our board members as overconfident. He never embarrassed us though, and on his watch our company realized significant growth in revenues. Partly, he did this by increasing corporate debt, but before his 4-year contract ended, we renewed him for a second 4 years. But then in 2016 we needed to fill the job again. And here she was again, HRC, with an even stronger resume than before. The search firm seemed ambivalent, but her main rival was an older guy who talked more about corporate social responsibility than sound business practices, so this time they picked HRC. Problems came during the final selection phase. HRC lobbied for the job in a way that gave us pause. Not content to disparage the rival chosen by the other search firm, HRC slandered board members unsympathetic to her candidacy. She called them a basket of deplorables, and suggested that anybody supporting her rival was racist, sexist, homophobic, xenophobic, Islamophobic, you name it. It should have easy to reject an angry candidate with such an outsized sense of entitlement. Yet the candidate provided by the other search firm was problematic, too. He'd had success, and some failures, in other fields, but had zero experience in our industry. And he, too, was intemperate. We're a rough and tumble company and getting the top job usually entails throwing some elbows. But this candidate, the Don, slimed other applicants savagely, employed insensitive language about ethnic and religious groups, and used social media in ways that many board members thought would cause problems in our international corporate operations. Even before the Also, we'd hoped that the two search firms would offer us at least one younger option. The finalists were 69 years old and 70. They were sensitive about their age, too. HRC, who was 69, claimed to be a child of the 60s. Actually, she was a child of the 40s. When the Don turned 70, he went on The Dr. Oz show to compare his physical condition to that of star professional football player Tom Brady. "You know, Tom Brady is a friend of mine. We play golf together," he said. "Great quarterback. He's a phenomenal guy and a great athlete. I'm with him, and I feel the same age as him. It's crazy. To be honest, the entire process struck a majority of the board as crazy, but ultimately we went with the Don. It was one of our closest board votes ever. Majority of our members actually voted for HRC, but we have a weighted system of voting designed to make sure the company CEO isn't only popular on the two coasts or in our urban markets, so the Don won in a squeaker. Many of our board members are still angry, and have talked about changing the system. Frankly, we've heard that before, but the disgruntled shareholders usually get over it. Not this time. They formed organized resistance to the CEO, filed lawsuits to try and undermine his management team and gotten federal prosecutors looking into his personal and business practices. HRC hasn't let it go, either. She recently reprised her "Basket of Deplorables" rap, and this time it was worse. She's now saying that any board members who supported the Don don't believe in civil rights for African Americans or that women should work outside the home. As for the 52% of white women who opposed her, she says the men in their lives forced them to forsake her. It was all pretty weird, but that's not the worst of it. The guy who edged her out, the guy who has the job, is doing the same thing. He's relitigating the process as well. He goes around the country meeting with shareholders. This is normally a good practice, but he invariably turns the conversation to 2016 and why he's a better choice than HRC. He's campaigning for a job he's already been given. We'd prefer that he actually do the job instead. Our CEO is erratic in other ways, too, not least of which is his inexplicable attitude toward our foreign competitors. He keeps praising the leaders of corporations that want to put us out of business, while routinely slandering corporations with which we have close affiliations and joint ventures. Things have gotten so bad that many of our board members are worried about the very future of our company. I won't go that far, but I do think we need a third search firm. Carl M. Cannon is executive editor and Washington bureau chief of Real Clear Politics.